Hi Mark and Sarah, this is the video of our property. This is Fruick Lodge, the base of Mountain Innovations, and if we just look up the street one way for the moment, you can see the hills in the distance. We live in a very nice village of Botergarten, sort of quaint, peaceful Highland village. Okay, so it has quite a lot going on. Anyway, we'll cross the road. Okay, here's our council recycling bin. We obviously try and put in as much as our rubbish that we can recycle as possible, and we're now heading up the drive. We also have Rich's recycling bin that saves us quite a lot of time sorting out bottles and taking to the bottle bank, and a lot of other stuff can go in there that cannot go in the Highland Council bin. Okay, this is a drive. We've had the garden reorganised. The sun's getting in the way. We've had the garden reorganised in the last few years. The shed, which you can see there, was where the trailer is now. The vegetable patch was in front of the trailer. That has now been moved to in front of our new extension, partly to fit in with the extension, but also it is a more productive growing area as it isn't overshadowed by some of the big trees. If we continue up the garden, I'm going to go into detail here just to give you an idea of what we are about. I take this a very resourceful approach really to what we can provide for ourselves on the property. Where the shed is now, we had a good number of lodgepole pine trees, North American species, which obviously isn't indigenous to here. They've been imported into the UK as a forestry tree, and we're just getting far too big for the garden as a whole, overshadowing and taking up a lot of ground. They were cut down. The wood has been used for firewood. I try to use every part of the tree. The branches and the twigs are used for kindling, and they are stored underneath there for drying in preparation for cutting up. This is where I obviously cut up the logs from the trees, and we obviously produce quite a lot of wood ash as a result, mainly because we have a wood pellet boiler, which is obviously carbon neutral. And I sieve the ash there. I take out any charcoal, which is effectively the residue from unburnt wood. But we also do burn some coal, because in the winter months, with regards to an open fire, the wood just doesn't push out enough heat really. But I do keep the wood and coal ash separately. Obviously the wood ash doesn't pick up heavy metals, well, the trees don't pick up heavy metals, but you can find heavy metals in coal. It very much depends where the coal comes from, and the problem is these days you don't know where it's originated from necessarily. I think some of our coal comes from Colombia, which is a bit of nonsense. So I very much try to minimise the use of coal. So the ash is sieved in this drum, and then it's then bagged up. Okay, any nails that have come out of the wood that's been burnt are obviously separated out as well. We recycle any timber. We have a number of projects on the go, and that is all stored down there. And then further down you can see where the brash is being stored, and branches that need to be processed for kindling. Okay, we've got some slates here that we'll be recycling, using to construct some new buildings, mainly to cover up the gas canisters, the bright orange gas canisters that we passed a little earlier. Okay, obviously this is an area that the guests don't see, but as I said, it gives you an idea of what we're about. We have this is what's known as a green Joanna. It's a hot composter, so it does mean that we are able to compost down cooked food without the problem of attracting rats. And then obviously we can then put the compost back on the garden. This is the bin that I store all the cut up kindling, okay, and then we obviously have the log store there, followed by a compost heap which is maturing and will probably be emptied next summer. We have the glass there for the greenhouse that is yet to be put in place. Again, that's a second-hand greenhouse, so we're reusing what is already available rather than buying a new one. That is our panes of secondary glazing that Rebecca uses for coal frames. We may well reuse those in secondary glazing the upstairs toilet. More wood. This is timber from my neighbour. He had 5 trees cut down, and I had the wood, which has lasted me obviously quite a long time. But with it being pine, we do get through a lot of wood. You know, but the pine is so readily available. This is all the old fence cut up. The fence was renewed. You can see it along the back there this summer. So we're able to obviously turn the old fence into resource. And there's the present compost heap filling up there. Okay. Now we have one remaining lodgepole pine. There it is. That will be probably cut down in time once it starts to get too big, but it can stay there for the moment. We also like to encourage indigenous trees here. That is a rowan. They're growing quite nicely next to the shed, and these need to be put back in the drive, but these are our car park dividers there. They've been sort of kicked out. I'm having some stakes made for them, but they have been made out of one of the trees that we've cut down. Okay. Right. This is I'll shed a bit untidy at the moment, but again, rather than knocking one down and buying a new one, we rebuilt the old shed and renovated it using recycled timber. This is our new lockable bike shed. Again, we've reused the windows from the old extension that was knocked down. The wood on the outside's obviously new timber, but the structure is all recycled timber, and that's a recycled door there. It's yet to be finished off with some guttering, but mountain bikers do like to lock their bikes up. Obviously this is all reclaimed land as such from these lodgepole pine trees that were here. We're probably going to get rid of that little greenhouse there because it's a pretty derelict state, but we're going to have a polytunnel here so we can grow more of our vegetables. And this is what we've been doing with the garden, is converting it over to vegetable and fruit growing. We have, it's a bit dark there, but you can see now we have our Worcesterberry bushes, which are of North American origin, and there was a fantastic nature program on the TV the other night showing the polar bears munching on what seems to be Worcesterberry bushes. I think they go by the name of black gooseberries in your part of the world. This slate here is acting as ground cover. We've got matting underneath to stop the weeds coming through, and this slate is the waste that resulted from the new extension being slated, as well as the slates being taken off the old part of the house. Slating does create a huge amount of waste, and we've been able to use that as a nice effective ground cover in the garden. As Rebecca's strawberries here need a bit of weeding, but we've got to have a blackcurrant bush there that's been doing very well over the last few years. She's got blueberries there, they're not doing so well, and that's a cranberry bush there in the pot. There's some local manure that needs to go on. Okay, we've also been planting fruit trees. There's a Victoria plum just there, and then we go round to our herbs here, some of our herbs. Rebecca's been obviously doing some brassicas this year, and we've got some very nice Brussels sprouts for Christmas time coming on there. We've had the rear clad in granite to keep it in keeping with the rest of the building. That's a more recent addition, and we then have the drawing room slightly out of place, but we need it obviously in with close proximity to the main entrance that you've just seen there. It's my tool shed. Okay, and we have more growing areas. It is nice to have these mature trees around the garden, but if we're not careful they do cut out quite a lot of light, so they are obviously regularly pruned, and in doing so that provides fodder for our fires, so to speak. Another woodshed there. So we have about 2 years supply of firewood here, and that means when we do burn it, it's thoroughly dry and we're getting the maximum heat out of our fuel. Okay, there's some raspberry canes. Scotland is very famous for its soft fruit, so, and they do, because of the hard winters, they do seem to grow quite well here. We have a Sitka spruce tree there, which is in the neighbour's garden, I'm afraid. I'm getting a bit too big. Okay.